Hi everyone, this is my first YouTube video. I like talking about politics, philosophy, things of that nature. I think one of the things that happens though is there's so much noise out there and there's so much minutia that when we're talking about like political stories and things of that nature, we end up like a lot of media places and other people get focused on these like really minute details and they kind of lose sight of the bigger picture. And so I was just hoping to, maybe do some videos that kind of look at that, maybe simplify things a little. But I just want to say, like everyone, I have my own biases. I have my own opinions on things. Shouldn't take anything I say at face value. Please feel free to do your own research, and I'll try to link articles and things of that nature on what I'm talking about so that you can do your own research and make up your own mind. Today I wanted to focus on the infamous Don Jr. meeting at Trump Towers with two Russian conspirators. The story's real simple. It's alleged that two Russians, one by the name of Vetselnitskaya, who's a woman who's a Russian lawyer, and another by the name of Amikshin, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who's a Russian-American lobbyist who lobbies from Russia. They met with Don Jr. under the auspices of getting dirt against Hillary Clinton because supposedly they said that the Russian government wanted Trump to win, and so they were going to give dirt. Later comes out, after kind of being dishonest, Trump Jr. replied an email like, sounds good, he's willing to take the meeting. So he has the meeting. Long story short, after 15 minutes, he realizes that they're just talking about what's called the Magnitsky Act, which was basically sanctions on Russia involving adoptions from Russia. It's not really important, but it wasn't really dirt on Hillary. Don Jr. walks out after 15 minutes. That's basically what happened, which we know of publicly available knowledge. People were saying that this amounts to a crime. They're saying this proves Trump-Russia collusion. This could be treason. This could be a reason to charge Don Jr. with a crime. And I just wanted to talk about what people are losing sight of this whole thing. The first thing is, I'll just make a brief aside, there is no such crime as colluding with Russians. Unfortunately, we have a crappy system where it's popular to pay to try to get dirt in your opponents. You do that. People, almost every campaign, particularly at the national level, does that with domestic people and also foreign groups. You're basically out there trying to get dirt from anyone who's willing to sell it to you on your opponent. I think it's terrible. I think it's scummy. I think that Trump did it was scummy. I think that it's bad that Hillary's team does it. But I'm also not naive. I know everyone does it. I wish we'd focus more on policies, but that's not the system we have. So anyways, there is no crime that says colluding. Now, the argument is that there's the law, the FEC law is governing contributions from foreign nationals, which I'll try to link below, says that you can't get something that's, quote, like monetary donations, things like that, but the quote is a thing of value from a foreign national. And so the argument against the Don Jr. meeting is, oh, he's soliciting a thing of value from a foreign national, the thing of value being dirt against Hillary, therefore that's illegal. But the problem with that is Hillary's team was also going through, they hired law firm Perkins Coie that went to Fusion GPS, which we'll be talking about in a minute, to hire a foreign national, Christopher Steele, former UK spy, to get dirt on Trump from Kremlin sources, Russian. So she did the exact same thing. It's just she paid an intermediary to do it. And the law, as you'll see when you read it, quite clearly says that you cannot get a thing of value from either directly or indirectly from a foreign national. So basically, it's not a defense to say, oh, it's cool, I paid a law firm to break the law for me, therefore it's all good. No, the law specifically says you can't do that. It was actually amended to make that more clear after shenanigans with Bill Clinton. So it was actually amended, I think, in 2003, because they were supposedly we're tired of foreign influence, but Republicans do it just as much. Don't fool yourself. The foreign influence is rampant in Washington. But I digress. I'm getting off track. So anyways, it's the point is, it's not cut and dry that getting dirt. In fact, I would argue that it is not illegal. It wasn't illegal when Hillary did it. It's not illegal when Don Jr. tried to do it here. But if it is illegal, if that's your argument, both sides did it because the law specifically says doing it indirectly isn't an excuse. That's still a crime. Anyways, what I wanted to focus on was these two specific Russians that are supposedly conspirators of Vladimir Putin, right? Terrible people. The entire idea for the Russia interference investigation is, yes, it's investigating Trump-Russia collusion, supposedly, but it's also investigating any Russian influence on our system. That's the idea. That's why you're hearing about, like, 12 Russian trolls got arrested or got charged for making Facebook posts, which is silly. Maybe I'll do another video on sometime about. But, yeah, so the entire idea was we want to just root out all Russian interference in our election. Okay, fine. Makes sense, right? Well, that would imply that you would investigate all of these Russian characters and everyone on all sides of the aisle that have communications with them. So, in this instance, we're talking about Veselnitskaya and Okmykshin. These are the two nefarious Russian characters that Don Jr. supposedly met with and committed this crime with. The problem is that these two have a much stronger connection to Hillary Clinton, and particularly the law firm she hires, Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS is ran by a man named Glenn Simpson. This is the group that Hillary hired to get dirt on Trump, showing that Trump tried to get dirt on her from Russians, okay? It sounds complicated, but hear me out. This group, Fusion GPS, led by Glenn Simpson, is the law firm representing, guess who? The same two nefarious Russian conspirators, Veselnitskaya and Okmykshin, all right? So think about that. Hillary Clinton hires a Russian law firm Hillary Clinton hires a law firm who represents these two Russians to prove that Trump is trying to get dirt on Hillary from Russians, right? And then Glenn Simpson testifies in front of Congress. One of the reasons he knew that the dossier that he commissioned was on the right track was when he heard about the Trump Tower meeting. Because apparently meeting with these two nefarious Russians, right, proved that there must be Russians working with Trump in this election. He is representing the same two Russian conspirators that he's saying it's shady for Don Jr. to have met. Does that make any sense whatsoever? And then when you look into the detail team further, it's even worse because Veselnitskaya admits when she testifies that she used talking points from Glenn Simpson in her meeting with Don Jr., right? So, hey, it makes sense that she's trying to get these sanctions lifted. She's working with this lawyer, Glenn Simpson, that Hillary hired, and he's giving her advice on, hey, when you're lobbying people, here's what you say, here's your talking points you need to get these sanctions lifted. Okay, makes sense. Well, Glenn Simpson then admits, and again, this is the founder, or this is the guy running the law firm that Hillary hired, right? He admits to Congress that, yes, he did have dinner with Veselnitskaya the day before she met Don Jr. at Trump Tower and the day after she met Don Jr. at Trump Tower. But he claims he had no knowledge whatsoever that Veselnitskaya actually had this meeting with Don Jr. Does that make any sense whatsoever? So you're this Russian lawyer, and you're working with, this American law firm, right? And you're trying to get sanctions lifted. You have basically the biggest fish you've had yet in the hook, the son of who may be the former or the future president of the United States, and you finally get to speak with them. And the day before your big meeting, you talk to the lawyer you've been working with for months to get these sanctions lifted, and you don't breathe a word. Oh yeah, tomorrow's like the biggest meeting I'll have on this. That makes no sense. Then, after you use that law firm's talking points in the meeting, you then have dinner with that law firm's head the next night as well. And again, don't bring up, by the way, guess who I met with yesterday trying to get these sanctions lifted? It is an outright lie. So 2 points I'm trying to make in this video, just trying to clear everything up. The next time you hear people talking about, look, this Don Jr. meeting with Trump Tower proves Russian collusion. To meet with these two Russian conspirators is a really bad thing. It should be charged. Just remember these two things. One, the very law firm that Hillary ends up paying to get dirt about Trump working with Russians is actually representing two of the very Russians they're accusing Don Jr. of trying to get dirt for. The exact two, which is ridiculous. Second, that law firm's head, Glenn Simpson, actually had dinner the night before and after with Veselnitskaya, one of these supposed Russian conspirators, but supposedly had no idea that she met with Don Jr. Doesn't pass the smell test. It proves that he's lying. Well, why is he lying, you might ask? Because he knows that if he didn't announce at the time, and keep in mind, he's back-channeling with all these people like Bruce Orr, who's under Obama's DOJ, Mark Warner, who's Democratic vice chair of the Senate Intel Committee. Why didn't he tell them at the time? Yeah, I know of this collusion that went on. Of course, he wasn't going to make a big stink out of it because he's helping this woman set up details of the meeting. He's lying about it. But anyways, yeah, that's the point. It seems like when you go through these things, it always seems like a pattern. 90% of these shady Russians that Trump's people supposedly are working with or committing crimes with actually have connections to people on Hillary's side or the DNC at the exact same time. Yet for some reason, the investigation, it's not supposed to be partisan. It's not supposed to be, we're just looking at connections to Trump. It was supposed to eliminate all Russian influence in our elections, all Russian interference. But for some reason, it hasn't looked at anyone on the other side. It's still taking Glenn Simpson and his work and his dossier as a reason to wiretap. Months after this, Don Jr., it's still a reason to wiretap innocent Americans that were connected to Trump's campaign.